Okay, what's going on, guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of Energized. Ross, introduce the champ.
We have the Cage Warriors middleweight champion of the world. It's Matthew, the Beast Bonner. Matthew, how you doing?
I'm really good, thank you, fellas. How are you?
I'm doing really well, man. And well, actually, no, I'm a bit sick. You can probably hear for those of you who are used to listening to us, but having you on has definitely perked me up. Are you the most famous man in Wigan now?
Warrington, that's where I'm from.
Oh,
so.
Jesus. You cancel the show.
Start again.
What's it called? You must be up there with the rugby league players now in Warrington then, are you?
I think it's Kerry Katana is like the most famous person from Warrington. So, yeah, hopefully I'm kind of catching up to her a little bit now.
She's famous around these parts as well.
Yeah, because she was married to Brian McFadden. So, yeah, we're very familiar with her work. So, Matt, how does it feel to be a world champion?
Feels good. It sounds really kind of boring, I'm going to say, but it's more like a relief. It feels like I've almost had a weight come off my shoulders. Obviously, it takes a lot out of you, this sport. It can kind of cheer you up and spit you out sometimes. So to actually take something out of it is very satisfying. I fought for Cage Warriors an awful lot of times now. You know, anyone who joins Cage Warriors wants to win the world title and move over to the UFC. So, hopefully that'll be the pathway now.
Absolutely, man. It was an absolute insane back and forth.
Yeah.
I think I wrote it on about 5 or 6 different places online. I was like, I think that was actually Cage Warriors fight of the year. It was an absolute epic battle. And not only that, you know the way in football they sort of say it's the tale of two halves. Sure. Well, I think each round was a tale of two halves. Yeah, like definitely. Frederick came out very strong in the first sort of minute to a minute and a half, the first at the start of every round, and then like as it got to the second half of the round, then you start to take over and start getting the better positions. I was watching just going, oh my god, you don't, and you know what was even crazy? I think you'll tell it's better, but in the fourth round when you actually got the win, I think that's when you were probably most hurt, and that was his best chance to finish the fight himself. And then next thing you know, out of nowhere, Matthew Bonner's on Matthias Frederick's back, and he sinks in what's only known as a next-gen special, the rear naked choke these days.
It was a strange one. I said this kind of watching Frederick's previous fights against James Webb, because those fights went 4 or 5 rounds as well. And he's got a very weird energy system, Frederick. He recovers so well between rounds. I've never known anything like that before. I think anyone watching the fourth round, he was still really, really fresh on the feet. And then when I took him down, that kind of freshness disappeared. It was like I was speaking to my S&C coach after the fight, and he was saying, obviously the stand-up and the grappling are very different energy systems. So if you kind of compare a marathon runner to a sprinter, he was almost like the marathon runner. He was very fresh on the feet. He probably could have got another 10 rounds, but as soon as I took it to the floor, the kind of wind went out of him, and that's where I seemed to be able to do my best work.
Yeah, it was such a great fight to watch, especially the co-main Will Curry against was it Christian Duncan. That was a great fight as well. And then I was like, how is this main event going to be that? And it was just so entertaining. Have you watched it back yourself?
I watched it back about 23 million times. To be honest,
it's just on replay there with the belt on.
Yeah, I was straight after the fight. I was like, oh, I'm going to watch that and cringe a little bit because it was a little bit messy. I was exhausted, honestly. I'm not sure how that 5th round would have played out. And I think that was a lot down to, obviously, it being my first 5-round fight and it being the world title opportunity and stuff. There's a lot of pressure there. There's always a lot of pressure in fighting, but, obviously a little bit more with the stakes being a little bit higher. But actually, looking back, I'm quite pleased with how the fight went. I'm pleased that I showed that little bit of grit and determination, which I know I had, but it's always nice to prove it again. And I would have said before the fight, I wanted to win by a choke. I wanted to show my submission skills off a little bit because that's what I feel has come a long way in this camp. The last 3 fights have been very striking involved. So for this one to be a little bit more grappling was I was quite satisfied with.
One thing that I did notice on the broadcast, you probably obviously didn't get to see, you were in the cage, was we didn't actually get to hear what was being said in between rounds. What was your sort of thought process in between rounds, and what was your corner relaying to you, if you can remember? Because you know, as I was saying, that the rounds are actually, one half he was dominating, then you were dominating. Did you know you were up, or did you feel you were up? Was that what was being relayed? And then obviously he got the point taken off him as well. Did that factor into it at all?
Again, that's quite funny, because every time I went back to my corner, the first question I asked was, did I win that round? Because it is very strange. Obviously, from my perspective, isn't really. You can be blinded and you can think you're winning, or you can think you're losing and you're not. Obviously, the corner team's there because they can see things that you can't. So every time the round finished, I go back to my corner and say, did I win that round? And for the first 3 rounds, he said, yes, you've definitely won. You've definitely won those rounds. Even though the third, I think, probably looking back, could have gone either way. But they just wanted me to get hold of him, grapple him, take him down. I don't really think that's too much of a surprise to say that, because every time I did take him down, I very much controlled him for the most of the round, where he was doing his best work on the feet. So the idea really was to get hold of him, take him down, drag him down to the mat, and see if we could get a finish.
Was it? Is it good when you're going off the corner? You're like, "Am I winning?" Are they better off lying to you? Be like, "Nah, no way, no way. You need to win this round." Or like, are they like, "Well done, man, you're ahead." Like, what's actually the best way looking back at things?
I think if it was a close round, it's probably best for them to go back and say, let's see that as a lost round. Let's see that as a round that we've lost, just in case. I think the first 2 rounds, I don't think anyone could argue that I didn't win them. And then I think it was it the second round where he got
the second round? Second round, it was 10-8.
Again, yeah, obviously, so that's kind of a 10-8 round. So we knew we were at least kind of 3 points up going into the third. And again, the third could have gone any way, but then obviously I stacked it tie really quite badly at the beginning of the fourth. It would have been interesting kind of to see how the fifth would have played out, I think. But I think honesty in the corner is probably the main thing. But if it's a close round, I think it's best off saying, listen, you may have lost that round. Let's fix it for the next one.
Exactly. Being the challenger as opposed to the champion, the draw was no good to you as well. So you had to make sure you were winning the rounds. If Frederick was up 3 points or 3 points after 2 rounds, he can sort of almost coast his way and lose the last 3 rounds and still get the draw. So you know what? I think you're right. Honesty out of the corner is exactly what you need. You need to know exactly where you are, to know how much energy to expend as well. So I think, great job from the corner. Hopefully next time there is a Cage Warriors, you can hear the corner, because I don't know, I love hearing the corner in between rounds. I love being knowing what's said. Especially I was really intrigued on Saturday night to hear what we'll get into that later, but what Paul Hughes was going to say to Ian Gary. I was like, that was like that must have been like very interesting to hear. So I was like, oh, we're missing out. But
can I give another recommendation as well?
Go on.
Just when they're showing the fight, if because obviously people from Cage Warriors are listening now, just like if they put the names on the screen as well, so people know, or what color the shorts or the gloves, anything, just so, because I live with a few of the lads and they're only watching because of we're us doing the show, and they're like, who's who and all the fights. So if there was an easier way to differentiate, that would be easy enough,
Yeah, it was probably easier to differentiate this fight though, which one was Bonner and which one was Frederick. I'm sure you tell the lads at the start, they know, but I definitely
just the lower cards and stuff.
Yeah, no, I definitely think a little where it says the round, it would just, even if it said color of shorts or whatever, or color of corner, I think it does help people who are watching for the first time. One thing I did notice, Matt, at fight is that I assume it's your twin brother. I saw when you brought the belt home and you and your brother, I was like, oh my God, Basmo, there's 2 of them.
The Playboys of Warrington are out, like, are it?
It was crazy to see. And then I think like I saw on his page or something like that, he had a post on his wall. And I don't know, it was either your missus or his missus, and roared at the telly going, get up, Mac, get up. It was in the 4th round, and they were roaring at the telly, and I was like, oh my God, I go, this is like carnage. But man, what was it like to bring that belt home to the family?
It was nice. Obviously, it's kind of it's easy when you win because you come back and everyone's dead happy and pleased. When you lose, it's awkward, and obviously you're a little bit embarrassed, whether that's rightfully or wrongfully. You're embarrassed, and people come in the gym and it's kind of, they throw a little pity party every time, and you think, oh fucking hell, this is, I wish we just could get past this awkward 2 weeks. So it's nice to get a win, and obviously the missus is super pleased and the family made up and stuff, and I've done this for 20 years now. I started training when I was 10 years old, and I'm 30 now. So it's kind of similar to what I said before at the start of the interview. It's very nice just to take something out of it, and no one can really take this away from me now. And if I was to lose the next 10 fights, I'd still turn around and say, do you know what? I had a really great career, and I was a world champion, and I'm very proud of myself for that. But it's obviously the feedback you get off everybody else is very satisfying as well. And if it makes them happy and they get a little bit of pleasure out of it, then that's even better.
Can we just talk about that for a sec? If someone loses, like Ross, like we know we're close with a lot of people on the cards, and it's sort of like you don't know if you should send a message to say hard luck, or it is it's slightly touchy subject, isn't it, Ross? Like, you know.
Well, I also think it depends on the fashion of the feat. You know what I mean? If you're laid knocked out, like I think a lot of times you don't really think about it as a fan. Like, Matt, you go into the cage basically in a pair of boxer shorts, and you're fighting another man in a pair of boxer shorts, and like if that other man knocks you clean out, and you become a highlight reel basically for the rest of that person's career. You know what I mean? I'm sure you just want to go home, crawl into your bedroom and sit there for 2 weeks until like someone else gets knocked out, and then you're sort of forgotten about. You know what I mean? I'm sure it's extraordinarily rough. I'm sure it's quite telling on your mental health as well. You know what I mean? Like it probably makes you question all the training, all the hard work you've done. Been like, am I actually good at this? Am I not? You know what I mean? So I'm sure you do have those deepest thoughts on when we do see someone lose who, like, we do support, we're like, I think 9 times out of 10 we send them a text anyway, just because their phone's blowing up when they win. But who's really on your team, you'll find out when you lose, I suppose.
Yeah, when you win, you get all the Tinder matches. When you lose, you can't even buy one.
That's exactly it, Badmo. But Matt, your career has had such a resurgence as of late. Would you actually attribute that to moving to next gen? Because each time I've seen you, and I've seen your last 3 fights, the improvement has been massive each time out. And like, you're turning into this like unstoppable finisher now, as opposed to beforehand, you were almost closer to 50-50.
Yeah, I think there's 2 kind of massive key moments in my career, and I think the first one and the biggest one is definitely moving to next gen. That's kind of proved to be probably the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Sorry, Matt, when was that exactly?
That was
after what fight?
That was after the Mad Ass Fleminus fight, so we're probably talking 2018, something like that.
That was the 16th of February 2019.
Right. Okay. So yeah, about 2 years ago. So I've not been at next gen for that long, really. I'd lost 2 fights in a row. I fought Matt Madsen in Denmark, and I broke my jaw in that fight. I broke both my feet in that fight. Came back home, jumped on the Mad Ass Fleminus fight. I don't think I've actually ever said this before, but I'd had a really bad tear of my knee walking to that fight as well, where I couldn't even shadow box for the Mad Ass Fleminus fight, and then he won by split decision. And that was probably, out of maybe 1 or 2, the roughest point of my career was at that moment. But what it did do is spur me on to change things up. The big change was going to next gen and mixing it up and getting out of that comfort zone, really, because I was very much kind of training the way I wanted to train and doing what I wanted to do, and I was managing myself. And it seems very naive looking back, but going to next gen was, I was a pro fighter. I'd already had maybe like 9-10 fights, but going to next gen was quite scary at the time. Obviously being like a world-class gym and well-respected coaches, so I'm very pleased, obviously, that I managed to go over there, and it's done the right thing by my career.
No, absolutely, and like you really have turned the corner in there, and like obviously Mark Masden, I think, is now 10-0, and he's in the UFC. Sure. I think he's fighting Clay Guida next in his next fight. He's dropped down in weight class. He's an Olympic wrestler. You know what I mean? And I always say this, especially in the European scene, if you get one of those, collegiate wrestlers or Olympic level wrestlers, they become very hard for any opponent, because it'd be like, me fighting someone in a boxing match who grew up since the age of 10 boxing. You know what I mean? Like, sure. The level of advantage is just frightening. So it takes years upon years to get up that level. But obviously the grappling has definitely improved at next gen as well, sinking in the rear naked choke as well. So a shout out to all the next gen lads. You seem to be a very popular figure there. And one thing that the lads keep on saying to us is, "You're so funny," and I think that's really telling from your Instagram. I saw the bus parade. I saw, what was it? The fella outside Greg's, is it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like just so funny. Like, not what you're expecting out of someone who just won a world title. You almost expect to see the belt in every picture, but no. Like, there's Matt Bonner taking the piss out of himself.
Also, we asked Matt to go grab the belt as well. He wasn't wearing it. So
we were like,
shows. Yeah.
We were like, get that belt.
Yeah. Matt was like, my brother's has it around the town, and I'll go and get it.
He's pretending he's me. Stop.
Matt, I was going to ask you as well. I think Ross slightly touched on it there. What, just so the people listening, and also like everyone, so they get to know you a bit more. When did the penny actually drop? When did like Matt Bonner really like go, right, here I am?
It was after the Jamie Richardson loss. I think that's where everything kind of came together. I still think the Jamie Richardson fight was the worst fight I've ever had. And I remember coming out after the fight and jumped on the phone to the missus and said, "I have no idea why I'm doing this anymore. I hate doing it. I'm not enjoying it. I'm thinking of walking away." And it's always one of those things you end up saying kind of as soon as you've lost anyway. But there's some real kind of, I did feel like maybe that was going to be my last fight. And then you take the kind of a week off, 2 weeks off, and you think, I'm ruining it for myself. I'm putting so much pressure on myself. I'm putting all this expectation on myself. And like I say, I've said this an awful lot in interviews leading up to this fight. You don't get to be an MMA fighter for 30, 40 years. You get to be an MMA fighter till maybe your early 40s if you're lucky. And what I absolutely didn't want to do was look back on my career and say, God, I wish I'd enjoyed that more. Now I can't do it anymore. My body's all broken up and smashed up and I'm too old. I will look back and think these are probably some of the best times of my life. So that was very much the feeling after the Jamie Richardson fight, was just enjoy the whole experience, enjoy the training, enjoy, having fun at Next Gen, even enjoy the weight cutting and the weigh-ins and everything. Just the special moments that you'll look back on, and even the bad memories end up becoming, the funny stories that you tell people about. So that's where I had the big, the turnaround mentally anyway. The big turnaround was after the Jamie Richardson fight. Then obviously I've gone on to win 4 fights after that. Yeah,
and 4 fights in some fashion as well. In terms of what's next for you, Baz actually asked me on the phone. We probably speak for about 40 minutes minimum every day on the phone. We're tight. And Baz goes, "What's things next for Matt Bonner?" He goes, "Give me a few scenarios," and I'll go, "Right, I'll give you 3."
Okay, here, the first one, read them out slowly so people get to know as well, and let us know in the comments as well what you think.
I think the first one, like anyone could say it, is he rematches Frederick because it was an absolute epic fight. People would love to see it. Second one, I think, I hope I get his name right, is Kent Copian. I think he actually was like a reserve for the fight as well. I think he weighed in. Or thirdly, Matt goes straight to the UFC and he makes a UFC debut, especially if they're coming to London in, I think, September, October.
That's right.
And you know what? There's plenty of Irish and UK talent to take over that entire event. It could be Ireland and the UK against the world on that fight. So I was like, they're the sort of 3 options I see next. Do you have a preference to any of those, Matt?
The only other option I can think on top of that would be they bring in kind of like a UFC veteran, someone who's maybe lost his contract in the UFC, and they bring that guy in. I would honestly like to see Frederick fight Cockman. I think that'd be a good fight. I think that'd be very interesting. And then, like I say, maybe me fight this UFC vet, whoever they brought in. That's what I would like to see. But I'd definitely be up for a rematch with Frederick. I think that'd be really interesting. And I think I would probably favour that over the Kent Cockman fight. It's a bit of a strange one with Ken. I always kind of respected him. Obviously, he did well in Bellator and whatnot. But I came down on the train to London on the Tuesday, and then you wait on the Wednesday, fight on the Thursday. And he started messaging me on Instagram, and he was saying all this stupid shit. This is Ken, and he was like, "Oh, you're gonna miss weight. Oh, you're gonna be COVID positive, and I'm gonna step in and this, and this." And I was thinking, what are you talking about? And then he'd see me in the hotel and he'd start being very passive aggressive. Oh, I'm going to take your spot and all this crap. And I was like, listen, pal, I've got the biggest fight of my life on Thursday. Why don't you piss off and leave me alone, kind of thing. So I've kind of
lost a bit of respect for him.
An awful lot, yeah, because he was known as this kind of
sort of respectful guy. That's what I would have.
Respectful, down to earth. In his videos, he says, first, I want to thank God for being here. And then he goes on to saying he wants me to fall ill and wants me to miss weight and stuff. And I thought, well, those two are a little bit of a clash of things to say. So,
right, well, Ken can go do one and fight Frederick. So
that's right. Yeah, you go and sort Frederick out if you want to, and I'll just sit back and enjoy it.
You know what? I can't remember who it was, but that happened in there was a UFC title fight, and someone called out someone. And then the challenger beat the champion, and he goes, "No, you said you want to fight." I don't know what to say. It was Dustin Poirier. He was like, "You said you want to fight Dustin Poirier. You go fight Dustin Poirier. You don't want to fight for the belt. You said you want to fight him, not for the belt." So there you go.
I think it was Kelvin Gastelum, was it?
Potentially so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there you have it. But yeah, man, Thursday, what a way to start off the trilogy. You know what I mean? Like. I've never been so excited for a trilogy, and I don't think a trilogy has ever delivered as much as this one did. Also, did you enjoy fighting on the Thursday? How you got to sit back and relax and enjoy Friday, Saturday?
Yeah, it is nice to get it over and done with, to be fair. And I know that sounds a bit more over and done with and all the rest of it, but it is nice just to get the fight out of the way. And obviously, you can sit back. I had another 5 teammates who were fighting. There was a few on before me, and there's a few on. There was one on the Friday, one on the Saturday. So it was nice to sit back and watch them, them get to work. But yeah, I don't mind being. Obviously, we have to stay at the hotel and whatnot. I quite enjoy being at the hotel, and I'm not one for, oh my God, I'm trapped in this beautiful hotel with all this lovely food and all the rest of it, like some of them are. So it was nice. It's not a big deal if you have to fight on a Friday, Saturday, but it was preferred to get it over and done with on the Thursday, and then it's done. You can go home and enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, well, I suppose there's that build if you're on Friday or Saturday, isn't there, Baz? You're constantly around all the fighters, and like other people are weighing in, and you're there, and like the nerve energy definitely builds up.
Yeah, it was even the production, the embedded Cage Warrior embedded videos. I thought everything was brilliant. And the greatest thing for you now, Matt, is your first title defense. There's going to be fans in the arena as well. Touch wood.
Yeah, that's going to be a strange dynamic now, because obviously, I think I fought 4 times, maybe 5 times without there being a crowd there. The Jamie Richardson fight was behind closed door as well, even though at that time he wasn't having COVID tests and stuff. There still wasn't any crowds around. So yeah, that's going to be almost very strange having people back in. But I say that in a good way. We fight because you want the fans there and you want them to spur you on. And if you go back to the Frederick fight or even to the Matt Inman fight, if there was a crowd there, those fights would have been massive. They would have really gone off. I was speaking to Ian Dean after the fight. He was the matchmaker at the end of the Matt Inman fight, and he was saying if that Matt Inman fight was in Manchester, you can imagine the atmosphere that would have smashed off there. It would have been ace. So yeah. I'm looking forward to being fans back, and hopefully I can shift a few tickets now. Now I'm champion. I can make a little bit of money on the tickets as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amen.
Matt, we're gonna shift things to Friday night, and we're gonna talk about one of your teammates, a friend of the show. What an absolute performance. Total domination. As we like to call him, flawless Nathan Fletcher. He is an animal. As soon as he caught that kick from Brian Poulin in the first round, he was all over him like a rash. And just what is it like? Because his work ethic seems unbelievable. We were only saying, his time off, he's there doing CrossFit when most people are in the pub having a pint. He is relentless. Tell us what he's like as a training partner, and tell us what you thought of his performance.
I messaged him today and said, I said, when you back in training, I'm going to go in next gen tomorrow and just say hello to everyone, and I'm going to have the rest of the week off. And he said, well, I'm back in training. I'm back in training today. I've been back in this morning. And you think, Christ, I know he didn't take any damage in the fight, but he still come off, a big 8-week fight camp. So for him to be back in the next day, the words he used actually was, I need to be in because I need to help some of my other teammates because they've got fights coming up. So that just shows, the stuff that Nathan Fletcher's made of. But I mean, people will look at Nathan Fletcher fight and they'll say, well, no, it's a rear naked choke. It's not that hard. But you have to understand that this guy's got, I think it's 6 rear naked chokes in a row. So you have to think his opponents, all they're doing all fight camp is doing rear naked choke defense. And he's still managing to win by rear naked choke. So again, it just shows the quality of Nathan Fletcher. He is kind of, for me, if anyone says, I was still, when I started MMA, you still had guys who were very much strikers, grapplers, individual styles, where if you've got like the perfect blend of styles, you're probably looking at Nathan Fletcher as the perfect example of that.
He actually is. He is flawless. Like, there's no other way to describe him.
We're trying to get flawless to stick, and it like no one will mention, but like with an undefeated record and like the way he's knocking people off, flawless. The longer he stays undefeated, the longer he's going to be referred to as flawless.
And Matt, you know what? You're actually right. Now, I don't know how good Translator is on Instagram, but Brian Boulon actually put up on his Instagram that like he was actually practicing the rear naked choke defense his entire camp, and he was doing it, and he was like, all the defense was going to plan until he hit him with that elbow, and he just, it was different. And that's the thing in training camp, you know, if you'd have to have a very bad training partner to start smashing you with elbows from behind, but like that's what happened, and Nathan ended up sinking it in. I don't think there's anything other than him fighting for one of those lovely Cage Warriors belts next. Like, I think it's undeniable.
Yeah.
The only thing is Jack Cartwright is actually out of contract at the moment. He's not actually under contract with Cage Warriors. I hope I'm allowed to say that because he told me himself. So maybe I'm not supposed to say that, but it's been said now. So I don't know if he's going to have to fight someone else for the belt, or whether, you know, Jack will sign a one fight new deal. But look, I wish all the best to Jack as well. I hope he gets all the offers from all the organizations and he can do what's best for him, because that's the type of people we are over here on Energized. But
Jack Cartwright's ace in terms of his style. You know, he's, again, if Jack Cartwright's fighting, you're not missing it. You're tuning in and you're watching him. He's, you know, again, very well rounded. I don't know, we know him as kind of like that knockout striker, but he's got very good wrestling as well. But in terms of, you know, Nathan fighting the Cage Warriors title, definitely, you know, he deserves the Cage Warriors title. But if he ends up on that September card on the UFC, I don't think anyone will bat an eyelid.
No, absolutely not.
What do you think Nathan's ceiling is as well? Because like obviously we had Nathan on a few times, and he's also grown like physically, and his mindset is so bulletproof. It's very, very commendable. How far do you think he can go?
All the way.
I think, sure, 100%. And I think he knows that as well, which is important. But when I say he knows that, this isn't in a, no, he's walking.
No, it's not egotistical.
Not at all, not in the slightest. But he does. I know he does a lot of kind of. I don't know if you call it mental training, but it's very much kind of positive feedback. And you know, he had this little calendar on his Instagram the other day where he'd be crossing up the days and have like maybe like an inspirational quote at the end of the week or something. He's very much kind of. If you look at my career and you pick holes in my career and saying I've not gone in that kind of straight path. If you're looking at someone who's progressed in his career perfectly and took the right fights and smashed them out of the park, it's Nathan Fletcher. He's done everything right, and that's not me saying he's had easy fights. He's had super tough fights. The last 2 fights have been nails, really good opponents, and he's just made them look, you know, like second tier fighters, and they weren't. You know, these guys. If you think of Bouland, he
very
is
experienced.
He's experienced. He's probably top 5 in Europe.
I actually think I saw something that Nathan Fletcher's previous 5 opponents going into this fight had a record of something like 22-4, and like he got them all out there. And then, you know, you add Brian Bouland's on top. It's like 32-8 or something like that. Well, 8 including the Nathan Fletcher loss now. So like he actually is next level. I can see him going the whole way to the top. I could see him competing with the top 5 in the UFC right now, but I think he's also smart. I think he'll take his time getting up there as well. And you know, he has all the makings of a superstar as well. And sometimes I think he doesn't realize how marketable he could be himself. Like he could be an absolute superstar.
He better not be listening. Nate, if you're listening, fast forward this bit.
Yeah, but like I could see the UFC definitely taking a rocket ship and strapping it to his back when he gets there, because he has all the tools to become an absolute global superstar.
I know I talk to Nathan quite a lot. I don't really train with Nathan quite a lot because obviously the weight difference is so big. But even in terms of saying, we talk a lot about doing podcasts and whatnot, and he says, I love doing podcasts because when I am getting interviewed, by on the UFC after me fight, I'm gonna be a little bit more looser and I'm gonna be more used to it and be more confident, and obviously then that'll sell you further to the fans and stuff. So he's very professional in his approach, and I think he's what is he, like 23, 24 or something like that.
Yeah,
he's got another 15 years left to fight if he wants it. So he's very well. He's the full package now. God knows what he's going to be like in kind of 2-3 years time.
Absolutely, and I just wanted to take a shift onto the next world title fight. Guys, this one like pulled at the heartstrings as well.
Yeah,
Joe Mccalligan winning that lightweight belt. Is there a nicer guy under the Cage Warriors banner than Joe Mccalligan? He is such a blue collar, hard working fella. He works a full time job, and I've seen it going around. The Fight Academy Ireland guys are sharing it. People are talking about it now. I've set a trend. Full camp Joe Mccalligan is a real thing. It's the same as a motivated BJ Penn or TRT Belfort. Full camp Joe Mccalligan. It's the first time he's had a full camp in a very long time. And my God, didn't make a difference. He beat Aggie Sadari for every second that fight went on. Aggie couldn't get anything off. And that's so unlike Aggie as well. His thing is sort of to go around the edge of the fence and sort of nick rounds. He's very good at stealing rounds. He couldn't get anything off against Joe. Joe was incredible in this fight, and it was the performance of his career, and it earned him one of those beautiful Cage Warriors belts. What did you think of him, Matt?
I think you kind of summed it up there. He dominated every second of the round. There's not one moment where Sadari looked like he was going to control or would turn the tide. I've not really ever spoke to Joe, but I've obviously saw the fight when he fought Mason Jones, and that must have been very disappointing. I always kind of like that, the comeback story. I know he didn't have the full training camp for Mason, and then he's gone back. He fought Kieran Lister, knocked him out, had a really good fight against Kieran. And like you say, I can't really think of anybody else in that division who deserves it more than him. And like I said, I don't know the fella, but I'm very pleased for him.
Yeah, he's just so nice when you get talking to him. He's so humble, and like he sort of said, look, if that's the pinnacle of my career, so be it. I'm happy to never fight in the UFC. You know what I mean? This is something that he's just very passionate about, and it was just great to see him put it all together. And you know what I mean? I don't know, just those Fight Academy Ireland lads, you know what I mean? They're really doing something great over there. I felt like between Next Gen and Fight Academy Ireland, like they were the guys, they were the two gyms that really smash it. Actually, high level in Scotland as well. Yeah. They had a great trilogy series as well. Look, not everyone could be a winner, you know what I mean? And that's the thing about the sport, and it is rough, but like, and I do feel like with the trilogy series, you definitely feel, you obviously set the tone for Next Gen, and like it definitely, kept that ball rolling. We'll touch on Kieran Mulholland and Colin Wilson's fight in a minute, but like, I think that definitely sort of, those two lads obviously saw their teammates become champions going into that fight. It definitely, encouraged them. Basma, was there anyone else on Friday you wanted to give a mention to?
Yeah, I think everyone can agree that the funniest person on the trilogy was Harry Hardwick. Just what he was coming out with, it was just hilarious. And also the knockout, Dominic Wooding, knocking out Cameron Hardy. That was probably the most viral knockout of the whole entire week.
Yeah, put some respect on Dominic Wooding's name and get him on the main card next time, because he's no joke. And he wasn't impressed. He was on the prelims, so I wouldn't like to be Graham Boylan in their next meeting.
Yeah. Well, then we may as well move on to Saturday night.
Yeah, I suppose we sort of touched on it straight away. Look, as we were alluding to earlier, it's a bit rough when you take an L. Connor Wilson obviously beat Kieran Mulholland in the amateurs. Funnily enough, I think and I'm going to include Nathan Fletcher's first round finish in this, I don't think anyone had a better round than Connor Wilson did in that first round against Kieran Mulholland. It was a very one-sided first round. And I don't say that lightly, because Kieran seems like, he is a lovely guy. We had him on the show before his fight. But you know what? I actually texted him on Thursday night after you won and said, look, Kieran, Matt also lost his first 2 pro fights, and look at him now. And I was like, take inspiration from that and believe in yourself. And
that's actually true.
He went in there, he wrapped up that guillotine. It was a very awkward angle, and he got the job done. Really, really happy for him, but also good for Conor Wilson as well. It was actually very much a tale of two tides, that fight. Obviously, Conor was doing so well with the striking aspect of the fight. I think his confidence was going through the roof, and then obviously he let the ball slip, but his ceiling looks very, very high as well, Matt. What's Conor like in the gym, and what do you see his ceiling being?
I think out of next gen, obviously our main coach is Paul Rimmer. Paul Rimmer has got the most amount of kind of he thinks Conor's going to be a world champion. I think he thinks he's going to go all the way. It's the kind of blend of that karate style. He's got very good wrestling. His jiu-jitsu is very good, and he's such a nice kid as well. He's going to be absolutely devastated with that. I think he was quite emotional after the fight as well in the cage. I was actually having a tattoo at the time, so I was having a tattoo and then watching this Conor Wilson fight at the same time. And I was gutted for him because do you know what it is? We had 2 guys, Joel Downey Cave and we had Conor Wilson, and it was both their first time on Cage Warriors. And when I was speaking to them, they might kind of disagree with this, but they sounded so nervous going in because Cage Warriors is such a big stage. If any of those 2 would have won the fights, they would have been signed to a contract. You win all the fights on the contract. You get a world title. You win a world title, go to the UFC. So I think it might have been the pressure and kind of that anticipation again, which may have thrown both of them off. But Conor will rebuild. He's been doing his karate for kind of 10, 15 years and stuff. So I'd imagine he knows how to take a loss and he'll come back and rebuild from it. But this is why we watch MMA, because you can. One guy can smash the first round and the second guy can pull a guillotine out of his ass. This is what makes it so exciting to watch. So, congratulations to that Kieran, but Conor will definitely be back and he'll make a statement in his next fight.
Yeah, we want to give a shout out to Adam Cullen as well. We didn't mention that on Thursday.
Yeah. Oh, actually, yeah. He also won by rear naked choke.
You would have guessed.
Him and Nathan are giving each other a serious stick over who puts up the better numbers in the CrossFit. So shout out to Adam Cullen as well. Ross, and then also reiterate Kieran Mulholland, what a guillotine. I was saying to Baz, it was reminiscent of I don't know if you remember Matt. Remember Cody McKenzie?
I do, yeah.
It was like one of those guillotines. It was very, very awkward angle. I think him being so long a flyweight definitely gave him the advantage with that choke.
He's big. He's a big flyweight. I was shocked how much bigger than Conor he was. Very tall. He must have had like 2 or 3 inches on Conor at least.
Definitely.
Yeah, like I say, well done to Kieran. Again, another guy I don't really know, but it's quite nice to see these guys who have lost come back and win. It's just not nice to see him winning against my training partners.
Yeah, but like Kieran was coming off the 2 losses, and then he had to drop down to flyweight. So there was obviously a lot more pressure on him than people wanted to let him know. And then when he came out the win, it was just it was great to see for him and his family, and then everyone moves on. Before we get into the main event, I'm sure everyone wants to hear what we have to say about that. Stevie Mcintosh defeated Decky Mclean by rear naked choke. Ross, do you think Stevie did enough there to get a title shot next?
I'm not too sure. I just think Mehdi Benlacker is probably still next in line, just due to like that. The fight with Decky, there was a lot of clinch work in it, and it wasn't as clean as I think it would be to make a statement for a title shot. And I just think Mehdi seems to have a lot of fans as well. Like written all over the Joe Mccalligan sort of post is Mehdi Benlacker next. It reminds me a bit of Morgan Charrier. Morgan Charrier fights, like I've never met a Morgan Charrier fan, but like when you're online, that's all you see is Morgan Charrier fans. So I think it does hold a bit of weight. So maybe Stevie fights a Paul Redmond next.
Rumor has it that Paul Redmond and Mehdi matchup is being put back. Rescheduled, yeah. But lads, we're gonna have to talk about the Saturday main event. Ian Garry defeating Jack Grant by decision. Like, Matt, like obviously you saw this as well in the build up to it. Ian went on hiatus, he said, and then all of a sudden this is all coming out now that he's not part of Team KF. And like Ian was on our show when he was like 1-0, Ross, was it?
Oh, if he even, yeah.
I think he just came off his first win at Cage Warriors.
We first saw Ian Gary on the 16th of September 2018 before he made his pro debut. He was doing a K1 kickboxing match against a guy called Andreas Binder, who's quite big on the Irish local scene.
Yeah.
And I was like, right, he's definitely one to watch. And we followed his career since. He was on our show, I think, February 26th, I think, 2019, 10 days after his first Cage Warriors win. So, like, talk about OGs of the Ian Gary fight game. Like, it doesn't get much bigger than that. But look, he put on an absolute clinic come Saturday night. And take nothing away from Jack Grant. Jack Grant is tough as nails. That skinny power is real. He's got one hell of a chin on him. Ian Gary's knocked out many a man. And I think he put that jab on his face all night. He landed some big right hands. He landed some big left head kicks. And Jack Grant, I don't even think he was wobbled at any stage. It was very, very impressive. And the little bit of gamesmanship in the 5th round, you know, Jack Grant was like, "Sorry, Mum," and then next, you know, he rolls for a knee bar. It was very, very entertaining, especially for such a one-sided fight when someone was clearly winning all the rounds. You were still always wary that Jack Grant's submission game is so strong that you know at any moment things can change, especially when he was going for a lot of those leg locks. Matt, tell us what you thought of the fight.
It was an entertaining fight, it really was. For me, there was I kind of felt like there was too much back and forth with the talking in terms of "I respect you, well, I respect you as well" kind of thing.
a little bit too best mate.
They were very best mates.
We were more saying that before they fought, when they were like backstage hugging and all that. I was like, can you not do that bit of hugging like after the fight?
100%. I think you shake hands before, you wish your opponent good luck, and then you catch up afterwards, and maybe then you have your hug and your compliments and
kiss.
stuff. Maybe. I don't know if I was going to kiss Frederick at any point, to be fair, but yeah. But maybe
we just hand the title over. Maybe you give Bill a kiss. Oh, thanks for that.
But
just a quick one.
I thought there was a little bit too much back and forth. It was entertaining, and like you say, Jack Grant has got a hell of a chin and a hell of a ground game.
Yeah,
I think actually going up to welterweight and him not cutting so much weight down to lightweight has done him an awful lot of good for his chin, because he has been wobbled a little bit kind of early in his career when he was dropping weight and whatnot. And he's a solid welterweight in terms of his build, looks very good and solid. Ian Gary, obviously, he looked very good. He was catching him with that high kick and the jab and the backhand. I actually thought he looked quite a little bit nervous going in, which I kind of think was maybe all this drama with his team and not having his normal corner there.
You know, I think just to touch on that, I think when the cameras were on him when he very first started walking out, I don't think he knew the cameras were on him. And then when he actually sort of made his way into like the tent, I'm going to call it, it was like a switch where he was like, right, be confident now. And then he was confident, but he looked very unconfident before that. Is that the part where you're sort of touching on?
I even think at parts of the fight where he was backing off a little bit more when Jack Grant was coming forward and talking to him. I think he did look a little bit kind of vulnerable in points. And I've never seen him look like that before when he's had Chris Fields barking at him and supporting him through the rounds. It's interesting what's gone down there. I don't suppose I'll ever find out really what's happened, but I've met Ian Gary a couple of times and he's been very polite and respectful. I thought James Webb, who was coached by Chris Fields, and he was very polite and respectful. So to me, it doesn't really matter what's gone on, but it's a bit of a shame that it's all kind of kicked off and all ended up in the fashion it has. But we'll see what happens. Is Ian Gary going to go to UFC now? Is that what's going to happen? It pretty much looks like it. From what he says, it's a given. I'd be very interested to see what you can accomplish there.
Yeah, Ross, like obviously people are tuning in now because everyone thinks that we know everything because we had him on sometimes. So do you want to say something?
Well, look, obviously Team KF have come out with their statement. You know what I mean? Everyone has to look after their own interests. Obviously, Ian made his statement that he felt like he was left 10 days out from his fight. Obviously, they felt that Ian made some actions against the ethos of their team. And you know what? The truth probably lies somewhere in the middle, because that's what they say. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's two sides to every story, and the truth generally lies somewhere in the middle. And for me, I just think it's a great shame, because they were like such a dynamic duo, Chris and Ian, and I thought they were going to go all the way to the top, especially for Irish fans. It's a bit like sad to see. I just do find it strange to see where is he going to go from here on now. Where is he going to train next? I do find it strange that someone could be a world champion without a gym, and where they'll end up. So, look, I'm sure time will tell. I'm sure, we might find out more. We might not. There could be a rekindling. They could be able to hash things out. You know what I mean? Maybe, Ian will say he did wrong on his part, and Chris will say they did wrong on their part, and that they'll make up. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I'm sure if they got around the table and hashed it out, they could definitely sort it out. But I have to say, big shout out to Paul Hughes, cornering 2 world title fights, one night after the other, and victorious both. I have said Paul Hughes corner man of the year 2021. I saw Severe MMA tweeting that out. Just want to say I said that first. Absolute legend. And you know what? I've never spoke to Paul Hughes about this, but I think he would make a very good coach post-fight career, which is strange to say about someone who's so young in their pro fight career. But I just think from a technicality standpoint and from a mindset point, he is absolutely phenomenal fight IQ. We've said that for a while now, Barry, that his fight IQ is wise beyond his years, and no better man to have in his corner. I don't know if you knew this, Matt, but did you hear they said on the broadcast that Graham Boylan nearly pulled the fight, Gary Jack Graham fight, because I think from a legal standpoint you must have a corner for your fight.
We was kind of talking about this before the fight, when it was kind of made clear that was his intention, was to fight without a corner. And then you think, well, even less legal, but what about him? He was going to give him his water in between rounds and stuff like that, and he was going to give him the stool to sit on if that's what he wants. It didn't really make much sense to me. Just have somebody there who's going to kind of, maybe they're not going to give you massive amounts of ice in between rounds, but at least have someone there who's going to be able to give you water and sit you down and relax you a little bit. But
well, in fact, he seems very friendly with Paul Hughes. The only thing I want to know is, what day did Ian Gary arrive there, and what day did he ask Paul Hughes to do the corner? But look, they're very friendly. I know for a fact they talk all the time. So it could have been pre-arranged before he got there, and just mum was the word.
Was it everyone was dying for the end of the round to happen? Because I think it was close near the end of the first round, and then it was like, right, end of the round, what's actually happening? I also want to say something as well. Like obviously we've been following Ian the whole way through, and then like 10 days out, this happens, and we're very passionate about promoting the fights and all this cracking, because we love the sport, and it was actually so heartbreaking to know that it was about to almost become an iconic duo. I know obviously the whole team's involved, but Chris and Ian, if you look back at the Connor and John Kavanagh stuff, it was almost like this could have been the next wave. People would have put them both together, and it's just when that happened, it was just I felt sort of not sad for Ian because he became world champion, but just that moment I could picture so differently than just being by himself. And it must be very hard for him as well, because he puts on this very confident persona, and he is confident, let's not get that wrong. It was just, under it all, people that have emotions, and that it was just he would you could picture Chris putting him on the shoulders, that sort of thing, and then to not have that, it was actually very, very disappointing. But I mean, who knows, as time goes on, people they rekindle their friendships and all that stuff,
maybe they'll come together again. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure, because I mean, if you think Chris Fields knew that if Ian Gary was going to win that fight, he's going to the UFC. He's not just going to become a Cage Warriors world champion. He's going to go to the UFC.
Yeah.
So I imagine there must be some kind of big dramatic thing that's happened for those two to kind of go their separate ways. Again, it's not for me to know or to find out, but there must have been something significant to kind of for that to happen.
Yeah, it's impossible not to talk about it. It was one of the biggest talking points of the whole week as well.
Definitely, Matt. One thing we do know is Ian Gary does have that big ego, and he is a unique talent. How would you feel if he said he wanted Matt Bonner next and he wanted to try for champ status? How would you feel about that fight?
I'd be comfortable. I'd be comfortable fighting him. That would be something that would get me out of the bed in the morning, get me training. Certainly, there's a lot of eyes on Ian Gary, which is obviously, he would go in as a favourite, I would imagine, which is absolutely fine by me because I'm never the favourite. I'm always the underdog, and I always kind of thrive off that. But I would be very interested in that fight if that was to come along.
Baz, would you be watching that fight?
Yeah, well, loads of people from Cage Warriors are tuning in now to listen. And yeah, obviously we were talking about that as well. Like I mean, the whole thing is, right, you put two fellas in and then like you promote them and then like you see all their following and everything and people being more invested and then they build on that and build on that. And obviously if Matt fought in, loads of people will know Matt more and then it builds and builds. You just have to keep building up that platform as well. But we like Matt, I have a question at the very end to ask you, but before, so we just wrap up this trilogy because we basically covered it there. What really impressed you about Cage Warriors, like whether it be the production or the way Graham's running things and like the stuff we wouldn't see behind the scenes? What really, really impressed you?
It's very smooth, especially because now we're on, I think is it the third or fourth trilogy or whatever? It's
fourth.
I think it's the fourth.
Yeah, it's so smoothly done. You can't afford it not to be because on UFC Fight Pass, you've got all these time slots. You have to be, the show has to start at 9 o'clock. It has to finish at this time. All the runners there behind the scenes of guys who've been there for like the last, at least 3 or 4 years. So everyone knows what the job is. Everyone knows what's to do. The weigh-ins are always on time. Everything is very professionally done, and I can't really say a bad thing about any of the experience. They pay for all your travel expenses. They pay for, I think they give you 20 quid a day for food and stuff and all the rest of it. So honestly, there's not really anything I can complain about. It's just very professional, very smooth, and I imagine that's why it'd be such quite an easy transition to the UFC because I imagine the Cage Warriors are pretty much as smooth as the UFC are.
Yeah. Also, it was very funny on the Thursday. The prelims were over so quick. You had an hour off.
Yeah, the prelim fighters were too eager to get the job done. That was one problem.
Blame Adam Cullen for that one.
I must say I love a good trilogy series. I hope Cage Warriors post pandemic keep the Cage Warriors trilogy series at least twice a year.
Yeah.
We were saying with John Mccalligan before, and you probably feel the same. At least when you finish this trilogy, you have an idea when the next trilogy is, so you know what date you're getting ready for, and it works out a lot better for the fighters.
I'll give him a last question to Matt Ross, all right?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, Matt. Obviously, you lost your first 2 pro fights, and now you're sitting there with the gold. What can you say to people at home now, like that are fighting or getting into fighting, and then they take 2 losses, and then obviously you're a result of like hard work, dedication, moving gym, going and getting the gold? Like, what can you say to people that like fall at the start twice, so go back and then push on? What can you say to them?
I'd very much say it's not a case of, I've lost fights, I just need to keep working at it and I'm eventually going to get there. You have to take something from the loss, change something afterwards. We've talked about my big change being moving to next gen. If I'd have just, I was very tenacious and I was very kind of very dedicated even before I went next gen, but it's not enough. It's not enough. You have to be around the right coaches, the right teammates, the right training partners. So that's what I would say to people. If you're getting armbarred 5 times in a row, then you need to work on your armbar defense. That's obviously a very obvious thing. If you're losing because you're gassing out every round, that's something you need to change. So take the losses, but don't just take them and say, I'm going to try harder next time. You have to make a fundamental change to your training routine. Again, man was going next gen and getting myself out of my comfort zone and doing that. Someone like George Smith, for example, he's lost twice in a row and he's lost twice on the feet, one to myself and one to Mick Stanton. What would say to him, he needs to go to a boxing gym and really get some proper sparring rounds in, get used to getting hit. When he gets hit now, it looks like it's the first time he's ever been hit in the face. So that's my advice to people. Make the change. Don't just kind of keep hitting your head against that brick wall. You've got to change direction and try something else.
Words from the champ. Ross, anything else to say?
Yeah, I actually have 1 or 2 little shout outs to do. Shout out to Liam Gittins as well. He was another next gen lad who picked up a W over the weekend. Didn't get a mention. Shout out to Paddy the Baddy Pimlet. Obviously, we're on next gen turf right here. And shout out to one of their UFC superstars, Meatball Molly and Mccann. They were very vocal across the weekend on their social media about the crew. And then I actually want to give a shout out to Patrick McAllister from Fight Academy Ireland and Paul Rimmer as well. I think they're two of the most underrated head coaches across Europe. I think they're two of the very most elite. And I think they need to be given more respect. More respect needs to be put on their name because they are absolute elite coaches. They are doing incredible things for their team. I'm sure, Matt, you'll agree with that as well.
100%. And you've also got Ellie Sampson, who's kind of second in command at Next Gen, and Added Venture as well. Certainly Ellis, he's 20, 29, 30 years old, and he's certainly the guy you can see kind of taking off where Paul Rimmer's going to, eventually leave or whatever. Paul Rimmer ever retired. Ellis is, second in command, and he'll do a very good job. He's very good.
Yeah,
absolutely. He could be Ray Longo though, and never go.
Also, a shout out to Huel Chaplin for keeping the standard of fashion at the highest of highs as well. The main man, the voice.
Hell, you're the man.
Yeah.
Matt, I must say thanks a million for your time. If you have watched this video, you're obviously probably fell in love with Matt Bonner the way we did. Make sure to head over to Instagram, give him a follow. You won't regret it. I'm going to say he's the Derek Lewis of Cage Warriors. Funny man.
But with the belt though.
With the belt. And if you have enjoyed this video, just make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, make sure to share it because it actually means a lot to us and it helps us grow our platform, to grow the platform for the fighters. So
and get more fighters on as well.
And it does indeed help us get more fighters on. Barry, take it away.
Yeah, Matt, anything else to say before we wrap it up?
I'll just like to say thanks for you guys for having me on. It's been a pleasure. Thanks to all my sponsors who've supported me during camp. And if anybody wants to message me on any social media pages, they're more than welcome to.
Yeah, perfect. And also, you're gonna have to update your LinkedIn with the belt. So if you are new, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and as always,
stay energized.